So how'd it go this week?
Good.
Yeah.
He's getting the hang of it. Good boy. I would say the two areas where I think we're still working through is like the auto sit next to us. And
Okay.
we realized that he used to auto sit next to us. It was because we always held treats up next to our son.
Sure.
So we tried it and he started going back, which I don't think that's the right thing to do. I'm just
So what you would
admitting.
do is,
We take the treat out right when we're slowing down and we go sit, and he like sits back. I think it's just, otherwise he'll come up in front of us and like sit right. He sits facing us, which is a weird thing.
did we do part 2 of heel last week?
We did.
We did, okay. So to counter, when you come to a stop and you start to see him come around, just go into a left turn.
Right back into it. Okay.
Yeah, because you have to complete it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just do this and come back.
Right.
You slow down, he comes in, and then boom, you just cut into him, but you have to bump him.
Okay.
Okay, because that's what's going to be the deterrent.
Yeah.
Because e-collar just says come closer, so you can't use the e-collar there. So we counter it with a different correction, which is the leg correction.
Okay.
If we were to like use that tree method, where if we like took a treat out as we're slowing down, we can't do stop reset. Eventually, would be just instinctively sit every time we stop.
So
We did that
once
one
you
time.
remove it, he's gonna not do it.
That's it for everything with him. We try to teach everything with treats, and he like is not incentivized to do it when there's no treats
Right,
there.
because, so what we would do is, if you're gonna use food, when he auto sits, and don't care about position,
Yeah.
you gotta do top it. So the first thing you wanna worry about is just put the butt down, automatically. So if you come to a stop and Melo puts it down, feed.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're just paying, right? You're not using it to lure him. It's just like there's nothing there, he auto sits, good,
Yeah.
right? Or yes, you'd feed him. If he doesn't auto sit, we put pressure on him and we don't feed. Okay, so sitting automatically is built because he wants to avoid the pressure.
Right.
Okay, so that's why at some point I know I can make it happen because he's going to want to avoid the pressure. Otherwise, if you want to incentivize him, it would feed when he does it by himself, and he'll start to distinguish. Oh, if I just go into this automatically,
I'll get food.
I avoid pressure and I get food.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to get pressure and no food.
Okay.
Okay.
He's pretty good at sitting. He just sits like he'll walk past us and then sit like facing us. Like he's like, okay, feed me now, mom.
Sure. So we'll do a quick review.
Okay.
See what that looks like, and then see if there's any adjustments we can make. And then today we're going to jump into recall.
We're so
Cool.
excited about recall.
Yes.
He
Okay.
is so prey driven. It is the #1 thing we need.
Perfect. And then if you got a guy who's very prey driven, makes it a lot easier to work with. So that's good.
Amazing.
Okay. So go ahead and just show me real quick what you've been practicing.
Sit. Yes. Heel.
Good. Good.
He knows exactly what he's supposed to do, which is why when he doesn't do it, I don't feel bad.
It's all right. Good. Now try coming to a stop. Tap forward. What's your number now?
23.
Okay. Good. Slow to stop. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Good boy.
Can I see something?
Yeah. Yes.
So here, if you want to make sure that the collar is doing a bulk of the work, go ahead and take a step back here. We're at 23. Tap, tap, tap. 26. Tap, 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 tap. 30. Tap, tap, tap. Good. So you see how little leash I used?
Yeah.
And it was all through pressure? Because his assumption is from the past couple of classes, come close, right?
Yeah.
So tap, 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 tap. tap.
Tell he's untrusting of me.
Right there, okay? Tap. And he moves in closer, okay? So all I'm doing is limiting an option. If he wants to go to you, he wants to go to you. So he goes into flight or avoidance mode.
Yeah.
Very little pressure because he had to have to some direction because I'm not his first choice.
Yeah.
And in 23, 26, 30. And 30 made him override. Okay, so then heel. Once you have the number, tap. Good. Tap. Good. Better. Tap. Good. So he knows the positioning.
Yeah.
It's just not the number.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a number. It's not the right number. Okay. So then here, you can see obviously because he's conflicted because he wants to go to you. Heel. Tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Good. So then we get this problem. So then I just move into him. Good. Good. Then we get a more straighter sit. So when I curved in pretty tight. And I don't know if you saw that right now with his head.
Yeah.
When I went like this. You see it?
He's cognizant of his
Yeah, he's going like this, right? Break. Because he wants to avoid the knee.
That was very impressive. I like watching you do that. We don't have
The movement.
that
But
you
it
have.
really just comes to it's all about the pressure. Okay. So here, he's doing well.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for that better, it's playing with the pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, because remember, that's what makes it
And
more important.
We did realize we do need to put it up significantly when there's dogs around.
Sure. Okay, so let's try that again, and then we'll start going into the recall. Okay?
Do you want to try?
Tap, tap, good. Tap, tap, good. Tap. Right, good.
Sit. Heel.
Good turn. Good. Good pivot, tap. Good. Now get ready for a stop. Tap forward. Good. Good turn. Good. So right there, what you're gonna do is you're gonna move forward with that right leg and cut real tight into him. Okay?
Yeah. Like that.
No, just leg movements. So you're gonna just plow forward, right leg, but turn real tight into him.
And stop.
No, keep moving. Yeah, bump, bump, bump. There you go. So you have to commit to it,
Yeah.
and then try slow to stop again. Now these dogs are going to be a distraction, which is good, because he's probably going to favor that side again. Right?
Yeah.
Now here, so you see as he was moving in, right? So these are the exceptions. Because you would stationary, auto sit, heel, left leg. But here, because you're going for a correction, when you slow down, because of distraction, he starts to curve in. So as he's curving in, you go in, boom, again, right? And you want to put some behind it, because you're trying to make it an aversive to teach him like don't cut across from me, okay? There you go, bump, bump, yes. And we'll try again, stopping in that same spot, okay? But if you see him curve around, you automatically jump into that turn. Tap forward, good. Yep, bump, push through. Tap, 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 good. Now that, with the jumping, you tap.
Oh, yeah.
There you go, let's try it again. Bump, bump, tap, bump, good. Good. Try it again. Better, better. But you have to do less that time. Okay, so try one more. Yep, now tap. There you go, that's fine. Good. So here, go ahead and come back this way. Uh-huh, good. And then slow to stop. Ah, good, yep. You got it. There you go, better. So, couple of things. Whenever we're working on something, you want to think topics. So we have him cutting in front of you. We had him jumping, right? And then we have the auto sits. Okay, we have 3 things that we want to work on. The main thing I focused on in the beginning was when you were stopping this way because of the distraction, he was curving like that. So then we turned into him, right? I don't care about perfection. I just need him to stop cutting in front of me. Then he kind of, on the last one he turned, but he was turned like this. But at least he wasn't in my way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then, if I start to get this consistently, right? Also automatically, that's a couple of things off the list. Now I just need to straighten them out. Does that make sense? But we tend to do everything all at once, and for the dog, it's too much information. They're not going to get it. So like for instance, when we cover the recall right now, there's a couple of points to the recall. There's the turn and then the return. The turn is when you call him off a squirrel, how fast does he turn away? The return, how fast does he come back? Okay? So typically these things build quickly together, but sometimes the dog will do a quick turn but a slow return, right? So then I want to focus on the return. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or maybe I want to focus on the turn. So I can't do both really.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So whenever you're working on something, like let's say you start a training session, at this point, because you're going to start getting more subjects, I want you to focus on a topic. Oh, those auto sits, they're not automatic. Focus on making them automatic first. Then you can focus on straightening them out or fixing the cutting in front. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think we've been trying to use his walks as training sessions, and we usually go on like pretty long walks, and he's really good for the first 15 minutes, and then he's like, I think we need more dedicated, like shorter training sessions.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
More power.
Yeah, okay.
More power. Okay, that's the one thing that holds everybody back is, you know, they see good progress. It's a lot better than what it was.
Yeah.
And then they settle for that.
Yeah.
But then you get stuck. And then the dog starts to digress.
Yeah.
Right? So now just play with the power.
And you think, like, I think this, but like as he's getting acclimated to the collar, I feel like he has a higher tolerance for like levels.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Some dogs go lower, some stay static, some go higher. So we have to figure out what dog is Melo, okay? And it doesn't mean it's not anything good or bad, it's just that's what he's gonna end up needing. So that's why you're always adapting to him, to the situation. Like super common, when I train clients in the summer, spring, or summer, fall, whatever, and it's like a husky, like winter type breed. The dog's great. And then the first nose, like I get emails, Jesse, my dog is a spaz. Like what happened? Like all the training out the window. And I'm like, because of the snow, right? So I just tell them, raise the number. Because your dog is super excited about it. That's fine. But it doesn't mean they can be disobedient, right?
That's like him in this environment. Like, this is perfect to practice recall because he will be so distracted.
Distracted by them, right? Right.
Yeah.
And you can tell he's never jumped.
Oh yeah, like I'm looking at right now. He's wagging his tail. He's like here looking. He's also looking at you, going, Mom. So, so this week, play with that number, okay? You know, we're at roughly
30.
30 in a somewhat controlled environment, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna switch that leash for this leash.
Come.
If I can get it on.
Why are you so crazy right now? So wiggly. Melo.
Tap.
Off.
Yeah.
We've never had a jumping problem. This is brand new from today.
He's getting excited. Some of it was frustration earlier because of the turn-ins.
Yeah.
But then he started to learn that that wasn't going to help him out there.
I did.
Let's
He's
see.
like overstimulated.
Frustrated, I think.
Let's see here. All right, I think I got it. All right, cool. So we're going to clip this to the
Tight.
collar there. And then you can take off, and we're going to put another one on him. We're going to put this one on him as well.
I take off his prong or leave it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. And I'll explain everything and why we do 2 leashes and all that stuff in a sec. Okay.
Nope. I just got a little. Come on.
So this is going to be a 2-person exercise.
Oh, I do need you.
Yeah. So go ahead and set the leash there. You guys hold your remote in your right hand, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So here, the person who's going to be doing the active recall exercise, you're going to take your leash. You're going to put it over your right thumb. Okay. The trainer hold, of course, right? You're going to have your remote here. Okay, so you can press the buttons like this, and that leaves these 3 fingers free.
Okay.
Left leash over your left hand like this. Okay.
Okay.
So when Melo's coming to you, you're going to want to shorten your leash. Okay. This is very coordination heavy, by the way. So don't try to worry about retaining everything.
Just be.
As you do your reps, it just gets easier. You just have to piece everything together. Okay.
Okay.
So we're like this, remote here, fingers here. So if Melo's coming to me, I can just take this and just throw this down. Okay. This is the cleanest way to do it. Okay.
I'm really bad at this.
Now, when you've decided, hey, that's enough leash, you're going to then do this.
Okay.
Okay, so the whole, if it's like this, to this, to this. Okay, so the reason why we do this is if you're practicing outside and he gets excited and he starts running past you, one, you're shortening it to make it easier to correct Melo. Anytime you stop reeling it in, you want to default to this hold in case he decides to book it. Squirrel, rabbit, distraction, whatever. Because if you're holding like this, you're going to get rope burn.
Yeah.
Okay? I've had it happen to clients, so you always want to make sure you do lock that as a force of habit.
We are very friendly to rope burn.
So this, you don't have to hold tight. Just nice and firm, and that'll lock your leash. If you're not ready, and he's not running towards anything dangerous, you can let this go, because you have your secondary lock here. Okay, he's just going to jolt you a little bit. So the last thing is to start the exercise is if we pretend that I was like 30 feet away, you're going to put pressure on Melo's collar here, and you're going to start tapping. Okay, so it's pressure, you're tapping, and the moment we see, no, I'm sorry. The moment we see him coming towards us, we stop the pulling and the tapping, and we just move backwards and throw that leash down. Okay, who's going to go first?
I'll try it, unless you want to.
Okay, so the reason why we have the shorter leash here is so that in case he gets savvy to the exercise, because you'll start to see him prematurely run to the other person, this allows you to keep him at your side so we can keep repeating this. Okay? Just reel it down. Yep.
Like that.
And then your lock on the left hand. Like that. Perfect. Okay? So once you decide, okay, I'm done, just automatically do that hold, and that'll prevent any rope burn. Okay?
Okay.
And I'll coach you through it. So let's go ahead and get some distance here. Good. Right there. Okay. So what you're going to do here is just very light pressure. And tap, tap, and drop. Yep. And backwards. 1, 2, 3. That's good. Hold right there. And praise. Tap, tap. Good. And praise. Now what we're going to do here is the sit is automatic with the recall.
Okay.
So on the next one, once you're done moving back, you're going to hold. We're going to see what he does, and then I'll coach you through it, okay?
Okay.
Now break. Good boy. We're going to do 4 more of that, okay?
Okay.
Oh, he's off. 1 second. He's caught up.
Tap, Good. Hold right there. Wait a moment. Tap, 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 tap. Hold right there. Now praise. Good.
Good job.
And break.
Break. All right.
Tap, 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 tap. Good. Hold right there.
Good boy.
Tap, tap. Good. Praise.
Good, yes. Yes, good boy.
Good.
job.
Break. Good. 2 more. Hold right there. Praise.
Yes, good job. Good boy. Break.
Good. 1 more.
Tangle.
Yeah.
Okay. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Good.
Good job, buddy.
And break.
Good job. Break.
Good. So what we're gonna do now is similar process, except instead of pulling and tapping, you're gonna tap first 2 to 3 times. If we don't see a response from Melo, keep tapping and then start to pull on the leash and move backwards. Okay? Tap, tap, good. Now back, 1, 2, 3, that's good. Tap, now back, tap, hold. Praise,
Good boy. Inspire me.
good,
Good job. Okay, break.
good. I'm gonna do that 4 more times. And let me have you come a little bit more forward so you have some space, so like more space to back up. Yeah, it's good right there.
Don't give him a command while
Tap, tap, tap. Now backwards. 1, 2, 3, that's good. Hold right there. Praise.
Yes, good boy. Yes, good job.
Good. Break.
Break.
Good. 3 more.
The green leash.
Tap, tap.
Yes, good boy.
Praise, good.
Job. Okay, break.
Break. Good. 1 more. Tap. Yep. And back. Hold right there.
Yes, good boy.
Good.
Very good.
And
Very
break.
good. Break.
Good. So we're gonna swap handlers here. And we're gonna go back a step. We're gonna go back to the light leash pull with the tap.
Yeah. Just go to the right.
This,
Like that.
just like that.
Out. Like that, and then you pull with this hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what's the finger?
Then you just wrap it around your pointer finger and clasp. Almost.
Like that. Yep.
You got it? There you go.
There you go. Come here. Come here. Good job.
Can I tap and go backwards at the same time?
We're gonna go back to a little bit of leash pressure with the tapping. Yep. Now back. Good. Hold right there. All right. Now praise.
Boy.
Good. Break.
Okay, break.
Good. 4 more.
It worked. Good job. Good job. sure the leash is tight enough that you can get
Tap.
good pressure.
There you go. Good. Hold right there. Good. Praise. Get a boy.
Okay, break.
Good. 3 more.
Break.
Yeah, good job. Good job.
Should this be hot right now?
You're fine. Yep. Tip. Tip. Good. Back. Hold right there. Good.
Okay, break.
Good. 2 more.
Break.
Good work, I know.
Yeah, so he's starting to get a little smart to it. You see him how
he
he's.
knows.
Yeah.
Good work. Good job.
Tip. Tip. Good. Good.
Whoa. Okay, break.
No, thanks, Dad.
Break.
Good. 1 more. Tip. Tip. There you go.
Yes, Melo. Good boy.
Good. And break.
Break.
Good.
Yeah, good job.
So we're gonna pause right there. We're gonna give him a little rest. So the reason why we're not using the word come right now is because if you called them and it came to you, it doesn't allow us to layer in the remote.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always start things, even if the dog has a concept or a baseline, with just the pressure first.
Yeah.
Okay. Once I condition that, and I'm pretty certain the dog is responding to the e-collar, then I start to label in the word.
Like heel.
Exactly, right? We taught the heel first. Now, with all the other commands, we layer it in by the end of the class. Heel, I avoid the word heel because people tend to use it more than the remote. So I delay on the word to force them to use the remote.
That's a good point. So we were debating this. When you start the walk, you go off break and you say heel, do you signify that you're on a heel with the remote, or do you just use the word?
If you cue the word, right, and I say heel, and Melo just goes boom, we're good.
Yeah.
But if I say heel and I start walking and he's sniffing something, I just start remoting to bring him to the leg.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, think of the word as a warning.
Okay.
What people tend to do is sit, sit, sit,
Because they don't want to
and
do
then
it.
remote, right? And they change their tone and all that stuff. So then it becomes, I told you once, and then I'm gonna warn you through tone, and then I'm gonna remote you, right? I just cue it once in a regular tone, heel.
Yeah.
Doesn't follow, tap, 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 boom, so the dog comes, right?
I do feel like that's always been the issue with him. Like because we haven't had an e-collar or something when he's like not next to us, we've never had a way to give a correction, and like he doesn't know that we mean it when we say a command. Like he's like, oh, I can get away with him saying it 3 times, so
Right.
it's fine.
Right, because you either have to go grab the collar or grab the leash or something like that
Put
in
it
here.
on him. And then,
Yeah, so with this, you can give that correction no
Yeah.
matter where he's at.
yeah.
So now that we layered in the pressure and his response is good, so you know that backwards motion that you're doing?
Yeah.
Do you know why we do that?
No.
Because it seems like you guys were doing it naturally because you were like kind of going like this.
We've been doing that forever.
Well,
Okay,
we don't know why.
Yeah.
so for dogs, there's a reason why we do it. For you guys, you're just doing it naturally.
Yeah.
But most people, when they go like to a dog park, they'll complain like, I call my dog and they'll look at me, but they'll just keep playing.
Yeah.
But then if I try to leave the dog park, my dog gets scared I'm gonna abandon them, and then they follow. And I go, dogs don't understand that concept. They don't know that you're abandoning them though. They don't think that.
This sounds like us.
They just see you moving. So they go, oh, you're moving, where are we going?
Yeah.
And then the dogs follow.
Got it.
So the moving backwards gives him something to attach to, something to draw his attention, okay? So other reasons are, and this is a forever thing by the way. So if you're at the park with Melo, you call him, you'll always do at least 3 steps back once you start to see him moving to acknowledge, come this way. The other thing is it differentiates you from the environment, right? Because if you're outside, a lot of stuff going on, other people, the dogs, stuff like that, this differentiates you from everything else. The other thing is, if at a distance he cannot hear me, too loud, and you remote him, you should see Melo start to scout. What am I supposed to do? And as he's scouting, he sees you, and that's his visual cue, okay? So it's kind of like with the sit, when you go like this, and the down, you go like this. If you're from a distance and he can't hear you, tap will get his attention, and he sees this, that means return.
Great.
Okay?
Very good to know.
Yeah, so there's purpose to all this stuff, because dogs go by body language more than they go by sound, okay? So, and this is again forever. Like, so my dogs to this day, if you see me say, hey, Lexi, come, you'll see me do at least 3 steps back, okay? Now the way, for who? That's Moose right there. Yeah, the Shepherdy guy. You'll see me moving backwards, okay? So the way we're practicing right now, not realistic, okay? We're just doing this to practice and teach Melo here that pressure now has another answer. Because for the past 2 weeks, it's meant walk on my left side or put your butt down, right? Or stop doing what you're doing. Now we're teaching him pressure means to return, okay? So here, the way he interprets the pressure depends on what life looks like at the moment, okay? So when you're in the heel and you're walking with Melo, for him, he sees your leg here, okay? So if you're over here, he thinks, oh, when I feel that tap, shh, I should be here. If he forgets to sit, tap, oh, I should be here, okay? So with this, if he's 30 feet away and you tap him, oh, I should return.
This is very much illuminated, like how much he knows and just refuses to listen sometimes.
Well, the main thing is, can you make him do it, right? Shh. So a lot of that refusal can be a lack of a true concept of what to do, or just because we don't have anything that can match him, right? Because like, let's say we were still seeing refusal at 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. I'm gonna make you make the decision one way or another. And that's the most important thing about e-collar, in my opinion, is it's the only tool that can make a dog think they're making a decision. Okay? Because if you do prong collar, you have to do more physical.
Right.
You're doing a bit of the work there. Food, right? If you take away the food, there's no real consequence. Like he's like, all right, I didn't get that piece of chicken. I'm gonna go do this, right? Yeah. So, questions about any of this stuff so far?
Yes, one question. So when we're practicing this for the next, like, I would say, like, few weeks, we are practicing with the long one and
Yes.
but without the pressure. We can do it with just the 1, 2, 3.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And we're going to be using the word come. So when we practice this, this is just to get the concept down, so he has familiarity. Then I go to the park. Okay. Melo break. Hold on to the end of the leash, and I just meander.
Oh, I'm so excited. We
Let him be a
every
dog.
morning to the park, and we've been waiting for a way to cue him.
Yeah.
This week we were like, let's do it. Can we just click it? And Brian's like, no, Jesse's not click it.
Yeah. So here, because we don't want to, because remote most of the time pushes dogs away,
Yeah.
right? So here, you would take him out on the long leash, you hold on to the end of the long leash, and just let him be a dog, okay? And then, let's say he's chasing a squirrel or whatever, Melo come, pressure, make him return, bump it if you need to, moving back, add a boy, wait a moment, break, he can go back at it again, okay? And you can blend this with your walks. So if like you spend 15 minutes going to the park, 15 minutes walking around, letting him be a dog, 15 minutes walking back. You know, like you can make your little routine.
Yeah.
Recall does take the longest to teach and proof, and I'll explain why a little bit later. But don't expect within like a couple weeks to be fully reliable. I'm going to give you stages, and then you got to work through those stages, and then you have a fully proved recall. Okay. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and add in the verbal cue. Are you guys going to use come?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to do, everything's going to stay the same, except now you're going to go Melo come, and even if he starts returning to you, I'm still going to have you tap. Okay. Just at the beginning of it, and then once you get a couple of taps in, a couple of steps back, come to a stop, have him come the rest of the way, add a boy, praise, and break, and then repeat. Okay? Questions?
Is it Melo come or just come?
You can do either or. Yeah. If I ever put a name to a command, it's always the come command, because people typically use the name as a come anyways. But then you want to be mindful if you do that you don't use like Melo sit or Melo down, because if you do a lot of Melo come, he's going to assume return or recall. Yeah. When you might say Melo sit, and next thing you know, instead of sitting, he's coming to you. Okay, so just be mindful of that.
Sure. So tap say tap anyway.
Yep.
Melo, come.
Tap, tap, good. Hold right there. And praise.
Good boy.
Break.
Good boy, buddy. Good job. Good job.
Melo, come. Good boy. Excellent.
Good boy.
Okay, break.
Good. 3 more.
Get over here.
Melo, come. Boy. Okay, break. Melo, come.
Good.
Boy.
And 1 more.
Okay, break. Break.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Melo, come.
Tap, tap, tap. Good. Hold right there. Tap. Tap. And
Good
praise.
boy.
Good.
boy.
Good. Break.
Break.
Good. Just want to swap.
Ooh, good work, Mel. Good job. Good job, buddy. Good work. All right, I know. Mel, come.
Good.
Yes, good job. Good job. Break. I know, break. No. Mel, come.
Tap. Good. Praise. Attaboy.
Good job. Good job. Break.
Good. 2 more.
Mel, come.
Is it Winnie? Hers is the pink leash over here by the door. Turn to your right.
Break.
Turn to your right. Behind you. Behind you. Behind you. Pink leash on the kennel.
Mel, come.
Tap. Tap. Good.
Yes.
And praise.
Good boy. Good job.
The black
Break.
one. Good.
Mel, come.
And this is Winnie's as well.
Good boy. Good job. Okay, break.
This is Winnie's.
Good boy. Good
Good.
work. Good boy.
Good. Questions on that?
No.
That's good.
So,
Good job. Good job.
here, now we're just tying those things together.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's a reason why we remote after every recall at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have training and then you have proofing. Training is when you teach the thing. Okay, proofing is where you make it applicable no matter what's going on. If you call Melo, okay, and he did really good right now,
Yeah.
and he's outside, you call him, he's coming to you, and you tap him too late, what do you think is something that could happen?
He thinks he's doing something wrong.
Correct.
Okay.
And then what would happen?
He flees.
Yes. Okay, he thinks, oh, that's the wrong decision, starts to run away. Okay, so here, the reason why we do a tap or a few taps after every single recall is because we're trying to force that situation, right? Because people tend to go by all the successes. So like I had a lady with a Rottweiler. She had been training him since 2 months. We started training like at 7, 8 months, all food stuff. And then she started e-collar. And when we started recall, she was like, Jesse, this dog has great recall. He never not comes to me. And I said, nah, we're gonna use the long leash. We're gonna we're gonna do what we normally do. Ironically, within that week, when I saw the next class, she comes to class, she's like, Jesse, I'm so glad you made me use that leash. It took off on me. And I was like, yeah. I was like, it works until one day it doesn't.
The worst feeling ever. We've had that happen, unfortunately.
They're here for Zoe. So yeah, but that's what people do, right? They see their dog do so well, but it's really the failures where we learn the most, right? Because then we're saying you can't do that. You have to remove that as an option, right? So now for her in that moment, she didn't get to use the remote, but she was happy because she had the leash. But then it woke her up to, oh, my dog isn't as good as that doggy was, okay? Developmental stages, plus it's just dogs making decisions that aren't to our benefit, but more so to theirs, right? So at this stage, we always want to remote when we're calling them because I want that situation to happen, okay? And if it doesn't happen, I make it happen.
I guarantee you it happens at the park.
So, I have a question. Because we do take Melo to the park pretty much every morning, and we have Melo along the line and throw a ball around, and he will like walk with us when we like go places. We're not necessarily holding the leash at all times, but we try to stay within like the radius of the leash because at any moment he can take off and just step on it. So, do you think we should try in that instance now that we have this, instead of stepping on the leash, just right away click?
Now, is this where, are you calling him or is this him moving too far away from you?
This would be him like going, like taking off towards something, but still within our...
He's usually good, but he'll try to take off towards the play groups of dogs. So I think
Sure.
that's a situation where we would use this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way we would approach that is because if you tap him and move back, he's not gonna learn to not do that. He's gonna think, oh, you must have called me and I didn't hear it. So two very different things, okay? So if I'm with Melo, let's say,
Yeah, because it's more of like a Melo stop. Instead of,
yes, right, like,
yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah.
So this is like going to be more complicated, but it's best that you know it. So we have 4 types of spaces. You have intimate space, which is 2 to 3 feet of you. You have personal space, which is 3 to 8 feet of you. Then we have community space, which is 8 to 20 feet of you, 20, 30 feet. And then you have public space, which is outside of that. So the next time you go to a public park, envision bubbles around everybody. Right, so like right now I'm in your personal space, but I'm not in your intimate space, right? So if I was in your intimate space, you'd be most likely do this or like back off or like that's too close, right? So for dogs, when you're outside, I want you to imagine like a 20 to 30 foot bubble around Melo, as well as other dogs, okay?
So 40 to 60 feet.
Right, but you know, both of them, right? So the way this works is, let's say you're walking with Melo, and he's got his little bubble, right? So like right now, these dogs are technically within his bubble, right? If you were outside, this is where we would expect dogs to greet each other. Because once their bubbles overlap, like in those diagrams, you know, that's when they show interest. Okay, now every now and then I get a dog who's heightened, more alert, and they will react to things even outside of that. But for your visual, now that you're putting rules to things, okay, because e-collar is going to change how he views the world, is technically if something's outside of that bubble, it shouldn't interest him, okay? If they overlap, that's where I expect there's going to be, they're going to come greet each other, or that's when they're either going to get suspicious or alert, is when those bubbles overlap. So if you're trying to avoid Melo from running to a play group, you would stay outside of that 20 to 30 foot bubble. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now there's an override to this. So that's when Melo is in a loose walk. What would allow you to walk through a bubble and him not care?
Being on heel.
Yes. Because now you just shrink that bubble where it's like you only care about this hip and only this hip. And that allows, you could, literally go to a dog park, pop him in the heel, and walk through the group of dogs, and he's there, right? So that overrides. So if you're walking a loose heel, he's under command, or loose walk, whatever, he's technically allowed to do that. So then this is how you start to use your obedience. And you go like, okay, maybe there's a bunch of groups of dogs here, right? And there's no way to walk through them, but to walk through them and put them in the heel. That's why you have that control. You get through, break, because now we're outside that bubble, okay? Same thing when you see dogs that look like not so nice or whatever, you stay out of that range, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's definitely for dogs for sure. And what if it's a squirrel that,
Same concept, right? Now let's say he's got really good prey drive. He might be heightened. So this is where don't do that comes into play. You got a long 30-foot leash. You're walking with Melo. You're hovering around the end like you said. Let's say you see him get line of dogs. You step on it. You can do one of two things. You can either preemptively remote, like right here. You see how he's looking at him?
Yeah.
You would preemptively remote to tell him, don't pay attention to them.
Yeah.
And what you would do is he would redirect over here. Because if you tap and call him to you, and he returns, and you say break, he can technically go right back to that. Because nothing said don't do that, right? Now when it comes to the squirrels, there's a couple of ways of doing it. One could be, when I tell you break, you can chase squirrels, I don't care. One could be, I tell you break, but if the squirrels are outside of our radius, they're off limits.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can really fine tune it, or you can even have a secondary break where he needs more permission in order to actively chase. Okay, so what I usually tell people is just keep the radius because that's the easiest. But if I have a dog that's super prey driven and like even like 50 feet or plus or whatever, they'll still eyeball a squirrel. Then we have to be a bit more strict.
He's pretty crazy. I actually have an off-topic question for you. He is so prey-driven, like very scent-oriented, and I guess all dogs are, but like even little dogs, like he like stalks them. Is that normal?
It depends on the dog. Like some dogs will stalk and hop into play.
Yeah.
Some dogs will stalk and then kind of initiate something, right? So it's what I call an on-defense behavior. It's something that you would know through experience. Another one is like when dogs size each other up and they go shoulder to shoulder and they do this thing, right? My Chihuahua does that.
Yeah.
And 90% of the time it turns into play. 10% of the time he's like, "Rawr," and he's a little Chihuahua.
He does both of those things, and he usually turns into play, but he also like, we stopped letting him play with like tiny dogs because if they take off, like he chases them like he chases a squirrel.
Sure.
Like it gets a little bit concerning for their owner.
Yes. So this you can stop.
Yeah.
But the moment you start to see that stalking, you would start remoting, and you might have to also bump it. And what you'll start to see is he'll stop stalking small dogs.
I think that's something we started doing this week is when we're walking past dogs and he just
Started
can't.
freezing.
Yeah, and he just can't get off of them. I've been using it and he comes back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you want to be proactive. You can disagree with anything you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so the moment you go like, I don't like that, boom, right there. Okay. Now, if you stop it early enough, you'll start to see them performing the behaviors less.
Yeah.
Because in order for him to learn to self-regulate, it's like literally he sees a dog and stalks. So it'll be see a dog stalk, tap, right? Because if there's like a 10-second delay or a 5-second delay, it allows too much time that he'll always go to that point. But if you get it within a second, what you'll start to see is he'll look and then go to it, but then right away just like do something else because he's expecting the tap to happen very quickly.
Yes.
Okay, so it's kind of like with the recall stuff. After so many recalls, he stopped venturing out so far because he's like, I know you're gonna call me at some point, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what recall does too, is it sets up kind of like an imaginary perimeter, typically the length of the leash that you practice with. So like my dogs, if I tell them break, they were trained on a 30-foot leash, they hover around 30 feet around me in terms of a radius. What's interesting is if you're in an open field, they tend to hover within that radius, and if you go into like a fenced-in area that's greater than that, they tend to just bust out the radius.
So interesting.
Yeah, I've had so many clients tell me that. They're like, Jesse, that radius thing, so true outside of the park and stuff. I go to the dog park, dog don't care about the radius. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I see it all the time. I don't know why, but it's super common that people will notice that kind of a pattern.
Super interesting.
Because all the recalls that we do are at a 30-foot distance.
Right.
So they tend to hover within that range.
Yeah.
Okay? So in terms of practicing this to make this realistically applicable, go to the park, pop on the long leash. If he's got great prey drive, you utilize it. So there's 3 points on where you can call a dog. One is about halfway to 3/4 of the way. One is just as they arrive. And the last one is once they've been doing it for a while. Okay, so you want to practice at all those points.
Okay.
Because if you always practice like when he's actively distracted, it's going to be hard to call him away when he's actively in pursuit. Okay, so we always practice in all these different areas.
Yeah. We'll have opportunities.
What's that?
We'll have opportunities.
Opportunities, yeah. So, and what's great with dogs with prey drive is we're just harnessing it. I don't care if he chases squirrels or anything like that. He's a dog. That's what he's supposed to do. But if I call him, he's going to need to return. Okay. So let's say I call him away from like where this column is. A little break. He goes. He's jumping. He's barking. Whatever. I'm on the end of the leash. You know, you have your number or whatever. Melo, come. Tap, tap, tap. Right. And if it's taking too long, you bump it. Tap, tap. Keep bumping. Tap, tap. So eventually he deflects. Then you continue with this. Add a boy, and then I'll wait. Okay, so he's supposed to stay within that immediate space, within the 2 to 3 foot radius. I don't personally care where the dog lands, left, right, front, back, between your legs. I just care that he's within 2 to 3 feet. Then you wait a few seconds, because typically they want to rush back. Okay, so I'll hold for a few seconds, he doesn't rush, break, boom, there he goes again. Okay, so you have a distraction and a reward.
Yeah.
Now, you do want to be careful that you don't drill it too much, because he's going to pick up on patterns. Okay, so if you always call him in pursuit of a squirrel, at some point you'll just start to see him naturally deflect because he's anticipating that you're going to call. Okay, so when you do this, you want to randomize how many recalls you do within a session so you don't make him too paranoid.
Okay.
Because if you make him paranoid, then he's not going to want to leave your side.
Right.
And then, so that's why recall takes the longest. One, you have to go to a park. You gotta, if you don't live in front of one, you got to get in your car, drive to the park, get there and all that stuff, and then you have to hope there's distractions, squirrels, dogs, whatever, right?
This is our daily routine. But I understand when we were in New York, we didn't have that access.
Oh, sure, yeah. So those, or we create paranoia. He doesn't want to leave us.
I could see us doing that.
Okay.
So you need to be like cognizant of how we're.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is if you do 15 minutes every day, maybe it's once at the end of the 15 minutes. Maybe the other day it's 5 times, then 2 times, and then 1 time, and then 3 times, and 3 times, and then 1 time. You're randomizing how many times you call him within your 15-minute training session. Okay. So he doesn't pick up on a pattern. If you drill it 20 times every time, he's just not going to leave your side. Okay. If that happens, or if you start to see him dip, and you're like, oh man, he's starting to get kind of weary or wary, I release him and then just right off just lay off. Okay, just wander with him, incentivize him to go chase squirrels, don't call him. And at the end, instead of calling him, I reel him in and I leave him and drive. Okay, and you can just clip the leash and just like walk away with him, like pulling back, because you're wanting that, and like that, hey, let me at him, right? So that this way, when I come back the next time, he's not like, oh crap, like we're here again, and I'm not going to be able to chase anything or whatever. So it's a balance of all those things. Okay. For the recall, like I said earlier, there's the turn and then the return. We ideally want both those to be real quick. So the turn is 180. Okay. I don't want like a gradual kind of loop, big wide loop to the return. I want 180 straight back. Okay.
How do you tidy that stuff up if he is like being gradual or like slowly joining back to us?
How do we fix that?
Yeah.
Oh, so in the beginning, it's practice.
Okay.
Right? So right now, let's say you're working at 30, and the first couple of days, you're like, man, this is kind of slow. But you keep practicing, and eventually you just see speed happen because of repetition. Okay? As long as we see that happening, great, we're on the right track. If we hit a plateau, we're like, Jesse, we know he can be faster, but he's like maybe 70, 80% of the speed, and we want to make him as quick as possible. We play with power now. Okay, so now power can incentivize him to like run his butt back. And I've had plenty of clients where they're like, Jesse, the dog does like a really, really wide U, and then they gradually come back to us. It's too low.
Yeah.
The moment we start playing with that power, again, that's what makes it important.
Yeah.
So he's going to want to return as quickly as possible. He's not going to want to take his sweet time because that's going to keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
Okay, but in the beginning, it's always repetition. Okay, and then if we see him getting faster with practice, then we're on we're on the right track. Once you hit a plateau, then we play with the power. Okay. Also, your energy in which you move back, draw him in. So you guys do the quick kind of movements back. So he's gonna be incentivized to return to you quicker because of that. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with that. You can do that as well to help him run to you quicker. You can also feel free to pair food here. but we're not using it as the lure.
Right.
It's just, hey, that was a really fast return. Do that again.
Yeah.
Good job,
Okay. Other questions?
Melo does this thing where when we call him to come to us, he has to like grab a stick before he comes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Or like he needs to like grab something that is like right underneath him and then he'll come. It's usually like a tennis ball or a stick. Those are the two options.
Well, that's because we're playing with the tennis
Right,
ball
and I
and
guess,
stick.
but now it's just like every time we call him, he's like grab something and bring it with him.
Do we let that happen?
Sometimes, but there's also sometimes where you can tell, like, he knows he left the tennis ball somewhere around here before he comes. He just wants to like find it first, and like sometimes it can take up to like 5, maybe 10 seconds of him like looking for the ball, find it, and then come.
Did you issue? But you issued the word "come."
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's got
So
to forget about the ball.
exactly, because I, as a human, you would say like, oh, like he's gonna bring the ball back, right? And we let it go. But it creates delay. And then the day that you need him to not delay, we have delay.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's say he's like running towards the street. It's not like he would delay and like look for a ball there. It's the delay in which he thinks he has to respond.
Yeah.
So if it's a 5-second delay, that's 5 seconds he's gonna keep going towards the street. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why whenever we do conditioning, every command, sit, tap, down, tap, heel, all tap, 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 is to cement in the brain to respond like that, because the faster he responds, that's the only way he's going to avoid the remote, right? So that's how we don't get delays. So the dog has no time to question otherwise, okay? So in the beginning, he's learning right now, you're in the training phase, and then once you feel like you've hit a plateau on something, then we can start fine tuning it with the e-collar, and then making it quicker, making the turns tighter. Okay?
Cool.
But technically, yes. It would have to be, hey, I called you, you just gotta
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
Okay? Other questions?
Just like one random question. When we start practicing this week, do you recommend like shifting between like practicing heel, practicing come, practicing turns every other session, or like do you usually just say whatever?
Oh, so heel, you just doing your walks.
Yeah.
So that's when you do heel, right? With the recall, so like let's say you walk to the park, switch to your long leash, do your recall stuff, and just keep it solely recall. And then when you call them back, you can back into a heel on the short leash and walk back home. As we progress, we're going to start blending all these things together to the long leash.
Okay.
Okay, in next class, we're going to work on the second half of recall, and then we're going to work on long leash heel. Okay, so we can start building already towards off leash heel.
Awesome.
Okay? Anything else?
No. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
No, you're welcome.